Hello and welcome to this special edition of What the Hell Just Happened? The vlog that tries to answer all your questions without being arrogant or preachy. Well, 1 out of 2 ain't bad. This week we have a special guest host who's agreed to illuminate us on world history. So with no further ado, please welcome Professor Wilhelm Von Abfuhrgessen. Thank you, Martin. The philosopher George Santayana once said, "Those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it," a lesson for us all, but especially for the women on the Real Housewives television programs, yeah. I am Professor Wilhelm von Abfuhrgessen from the University of Berlin. Today I will speak to you on the subject of fascism. There seems to be some confusion as to what is fascism? Is it a political movement? Is it an economic system? Is it simply a great theme for a costume party? The answer is yes, and no. Although the fascists did have some pretty snappy uniforms, but nein! To truly understand the origins of fascism, we must look back to the 19th century, or as you Americans call it, the good old days. In Europe, at the end of this century, the 300-year-old continuous party we call monarchy was coming to an end. During this long period, cousins had drunken sex with each other while wearing furs and jewels and eating whole roasted pigs. Yes, it was a little bit like an unkosher version of Studio 54 in New York, but to get into this party, you had to have a title and not just a little vial of cocaine. During this era, monarchs and emperors were no longer able to take care of the serfs in their kingdoms because the continent had become industrialized. Servitude had therefore become a thing called labor. And the working classes were getting a little restless for a piece of pork sausage. At this time there were 3 choices open to mass political movements or government. Parliamentary democracy, like in the United Kingdom, unless you are Irish, or a democratic republic, like in France and America, which formed to escape monarchic tyranny, unless you were black, Native American, or a woman in the US, and finally communism, a revolution begun by Vladimir Lenin in Russia that was based upon his self-proclaimed position of first among equals and aided by the governing powers of his Central Committee or Politburo. This also turned out to be a load of Bolshevik. But together, the old bosses were replaced by new bosses who distributed all the wealth as they saw fit. During the Russian Revolution, Tsar Nicholas and his whole Romanov family was publicly put to death so that all the proletariats working in the factories and the fields could have bread, tobacco, vodka, and birth control. This, of course, was before the discovery of cocaine, or they would have wanted that too. After the Great War, a lot of industrialists became enormously wealthy, so much so that they began to desire drunken sex with their cousins. And then along came the worldwide depression, which plunged almost everyone into poverty. It also spawned a fellow in Italy named Little Benny Mussolini, a socialist. Benito managed to get himself kicked out of the Socialist Party for suggesting that all people were in fact not equal. You see, he had been reading the philosophy of Nietzsche and was convinced that he was onto something. Nietzsche had invented the term Übermensch, meaning cousins who have drunken sex with each other while dressed in suits of armor and eating whole roasted pigs. He wanted to be one of those. This led him to come up with what would be his best idea. He thought, hey, what if we make the government, the armed forces, and industry all one thing, led by an Übermensch like myself? And this is how he became known as Il Duce, the great leader. Thus was born the 4th mass political choice, fascism. Now all this got a German soldier named Hitler pretty excited. He thought, this Mussolini guy's got some really good ideas, but he's Italian, so he can't really be an Übermensch, if you know what I mean. On the other hand, Hitler thought, I am German, so why not give it a go? This kind of thinking landed him in jail, where he wrote his bestseller Mein Kampf. As we all know, Hitler managed to bully his way to the supreme leadership, aided by murderous thugs, lawyers, and business people, and yes, I know, I am being redundant. And we all know what happened after that. In any case, both Mussolini and Hitler ended up dying violently, one by his own hand, the other at the hands of the townspeople in northern Italy. And so, this left the world once again with only three political choices.